Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome to Bones Collector, and today is a video that I've really looked forward to making, and it's going to be a fun video because I love all of these games. It's going to be a video about building a city on a board. Now there are lots of board games that are called city building games, and some of them are just laying tiles out and other mechanics, but in this particular case I wanted to select games out of my library that had actual buildings you put on a map or on a board. So that was the criteria for this video. Because I have a certain amount of crazy love for these games, and I wanted to talk about them. So yeah, that's what this video is about. And I'm going to start out right now with the game that I got for Christmas, and that is Foundations of Rome. Now, Foundations of Rome came out in 2022. It's a 2 to 4 player game designed by Emerson Matsuuchi. Now, we knew about Emerson Matsuuchi because he's designed some pretty good games, one of which is Reef. If you've played Reef, that's an outstanding game in itself. But Foundations of Rome was a game Lori and I would just play at conventions because the box was so big that we had reservations about bringing it into the house on a permanent basis. So we would just play it at the conventions because they always have a copy there and you can whip it out, and a game takes 45 minutes. 2-player, you can play it in 45 minutes to an hour. Because it's fairly light, but we absolutely loved playing the game. And we passed up an opportunity when it first came out to buy it, and it got more and more expensive as time went on. Well, Lori was able to find it on sale for this. It's called the Emperor Edition, and it comes sun-dropped with a wash on the buildings. And that was the only way we would buy it. We didn't like the version that didn't have the wash on it. So we wanted to make sure that we got this. And she bought this for me, wrapped it up. I had no idea. Opened it up on Christmas Day and I was thrilled. But we always said if we brought this into the house, we'd have to get rid of at least 5 games. So that's what we're going to do. We have a convention coming up and we're going to sell at least whatever space this box takes up, which is probably about 5 board games. So yeah, but we're selling a lot more than that. But at least 5 are responsible for their exit to Foundations of Rome. But this game is a lovely game, and the toy factor can't be ignored. The buildings come in trays. We'll show we're going to show you a video here and what it looks like on the table. It's so fascinating to play this game because you actually feel like you're building the city of Rome, and all the buildings that are in Rome throughout history are present in this game. And you have a player tray that is going to have buildings on it that you're going to put on the board after you've purchased the plots of land that you need in order to place that building. And there's different scoring opportunities and ways that you can weave your strategy together in this game. And it's insane the amount of fun that it is and how beautiful it is on the table. I love when you get done with the game looking at what you've built on that central board. It's fascinating. And ever since it came out, we've really liked playing this game. And again, we just had some reservations about bringing it in the house because the box is so big. It will fit in a Kallax space, so you can shove it right in there. So that's kind of nice. And I think I had 5 games in that space. I had to take them out and shove this in there. So I'm going to have to get rid of 5 games. But we adore playing Foundations of Rome, and I hope you've had the opportunity to play it. Again, the only drawback to this game, there's 2 actually, I'm going to say about the publishing. Number 1, for what's in this box, the box is a little bit thin, I thought, from Arcade Wonders. The inside sleeve that holds the trays of the player trays and the monument tray, I just thought that was too thin for what you're paying for this game. I thought it could have been a better package outside. And then the other thing about this game I wanted to mention, of course, is the price point. It's expensive for a board game, but you have to ask yourself, am I going to play it? Which we are. It's a game you can get out and play very quickly. There's not a lot of setup, there's not a lot of complexity to this game that's going to slow down gameplay. You can get this out, take the lid off. So we're going to take our 2 player trays out, the monument tray, the board, lay that on the table and play, and it takes us about an hour to get this done. And so that is something that's very attractive to us. But yeah, that's Foundations of Rome, my Christmas present for 2024. I absolutely love this game. I can't say enough about it. If you can afford this kind of thing, we're fortunate and blessed enough to be able to do that. All right, that's Foundations of Rome. The next game I want to talk about is probably the antithesis of that, and that is Tiny Towns. And in Tiny Towns, this is a spatial puzzle game. And Tiny Towns is from 2019, 1 to 5 players. In this game, you'll have a row of cards, I think 7 of them. Each one of the cards has a building on them, and it has a pattern that you're going to have to create on your player board in order to place that particular building. And the way this game works is each player is there's a stack of colored cubes in the table, and on your turn you're going to call out a color, orange. Every player in the game has to take an orange cube and place it on their player board. Now that may not have been in your plans, and that's the catch to this game. You're going to have to weave their plans into yours, and that's the hardest thing to do. And again, it's a spatial puzzle. You have a small 4x4 space player board, and you're putting those cubes on that board, creating that pattern so that you can take that particular building that you are using in your strategy to score and to place on your player board. Then you remove all the cubes. You have to place that player board where you had one of those cubes, and then you're trying to line those up according to the card text and how it says you have to do that in order to score. A very fun, quick game. 30 minutes, you can get a game of this done 2-player. We have an expansion called Fortune in here where you have the opportunity to acquire coins that help you a little bit, because once you have a coin, you can spend that coin to take a different color cube than what was called out by another player. So that kind of gives you a little bit of flexibility there. Not much, but a little. And then the coins, of course, if you keep them to the end of the game, are worth a point each. So that's a kind of a fun expansion. Plus there's some new building patterns and cards and stuff that came with it. So very nice expansion for this game. And we had another expansion for it I didn't really care for. I can't remember the name of it, but we didn't keep it. But we kept Fortune, the expansion, and it gives us just enough extra in this game to give it a little more life, a little more variability. So yeah, that's Tiny Towns by Peter McPherson. That's a very nice game. Again, your little creatures in the woods, they're building this nice little Xanadu for themselves, but the space is very small, and that comes across in the theme of playing the game really nicely. Now in the video that we have shown you on this game, there's stickers on all those buildings. We got those off Etsy?
Yes.
We got those stickers for the buildings off Etsy. The buildings that come in the game do not come stickered like that, so I just wanted to make you aware of it. But Lori loves to do that, and I appreciate her doing it because it makes the game, I don't know, it just gives it a little bit more fun factor. So we enjoy doing that to board games. Okay, let's talk about my game of the year from 2023, World Wonders. And it is a 1 to 5 player game. Lori and I can knock this off in 1 hour playtime, which is right where we like to, for the most part. Like 80% of our gaming is an hour or less, and we like that. So the majority of our games obviously play in an hour or less, and we really enjoy that. But this has a fabulous price point. I wanted to tell you about that. I think anywhere from $42 to $47 for this game, and the publishing is outstanding. Just incredible. You have wood resources that you're going to track on your player board. You have player aids that are very helpful in this game. The expansion is awesome, gives you extra monuments, and the monuments themselves in this game are the cutest thing. They're so awesome. They're all made of wood, and they mimic the actual buildings themselves. They're so incredible, and when you get done playing this game, at the end of the game, you look at it and you're just fascinated by the way your player board looks. So much fun, so thematic, so wonderful. It's a polyomino thing going on in the game where you're trying to lay those tiles on your player board in the very strict specifics the rules give you, the specific rule set. It's strict on how you do that. Even laying down roads, there's specifics in the way you have to do that. You have to start your roads from the bottom of the board or start them from a tower. So if your building that you're putting down has to touch a road, you're going to have to get one to it, and that's the way you have to do it. But wow, what a fabulous game for that kind of money. The gameplay is outstanding, the publishing is outstanding, and the thing I like about this game the most probably is the mechanic where you don't have to worry about acquiring money. Because in this game, at the beginning of the round, you're going to start out with 7 gold. Everybody. Everybody starts out with 7 gold, no matter how many players there are. And you're going to put your marker on 7, and when the round begins, as the round goes through, you're going to spend that gold. So you're going to move your marker down as you buy those tiles, those polyomino tiles off the market board, and put them in your city. And then whatever you have left over, you have to spend on a monument. So if you want a specific monument and the round is just starting and it's your turn, you can spend all $7. Say, I'm taking that monument. That's my turn. You know, that's it. Or you can push your luck and acquire some other things and hope nobody takes that monument, because there's only 3 showing. There's only 3 monuments showing at any one time, and maybe someone will take that off from underneath you. But if you want it bad enough, you're going to have to pay for it right away, or push your luck, buy some other things, and then, hey, I got 1 gold left, I'm taking that monument, and you got to spend that gold. Or if you have 3 gold left, I'm taking that monument. You got to spend whatever you have left, you have to spend on that monument. Wow, it's a fun game. Again, it's a game that I gave the Bones Collector 2023 Game of the Year. I love it. I don't know, I've read some people that weren't that enamored with it as I was. Some of them say that they thought the monument should have been worth more points and so forth, but it's about that spatial puzzle again, where you're trying to build that within a given space that you have. It's hard to do, and that's why it's so much fun. That, you know, just weaving that strategy. It's just a good light to medium complexity game that you can have fun with in 60 minutes. Again, plays 1 to 5. We've never played this more than 2, have we?
Yes.
Did we?
We played with Dan and Shelley.
Oh, okay. So we have played it with my sister and her husband. So we played it before. It was a blast. It's an outstanding board game, easy to teach, and that's called World Wonders. All right, let's talk about this game. Era, Medieval Age by Matt Laycock, the creator of Pandemic and other games. Forbidden Desert, you know, I mean, Matt Laycock's got a nice history of board game design in his pedigree, so we always watch for his games. I think he got some kind of Game of the Year award for Daybreak for 2024. Spiel des Jahres, maybe. I don't know, won some kind of award. But yeah, so he's an outstanding board game designer. Now, we had the roll and write version of this. I think it was called Era Bronze Age, something like that.
Roll Through the Ages.
Roll Through the Ages, thank you. It had these beautiful wooden dice and these pegboards. I never keep roll and write games, but I love the components, the physical components of that roll and write so much that I kept it for a long time. But when I saw this, and this came out, I don't have a teleprompter, I make notes on a notepad here. It came out in 2019. When I saw this, I said, I'm interested in doing that. Roll and writes, you know, you just checked off the buildings you were building on a pad of paper. And when you got done, so what? You didn't get to see anything. And it's exactly the opposite with this game. It's the same game, but you are taking actual buildings and putting them on a pegboard and building a city in a certain fashion, in a certain way, so that you can score points. And it's just, when you get done, again, it's so gratifying to look at. I love this game so much. It has 36 beautiful custom dice in it that you're going to roll. It has 130 buildings in this box. It has player aids on the screens that you use to help you out. And if you get the expansion, it has player aids on your scenario card, which tell you how every building scores and what you have to do and pay to get that building. But you're going to roll those dice on your turn, and you're going to have to try to roll what you need. And that is the key to this game, because you can have a spell where you're simply not rolling, maybe you're not rolling food because you have to feed these dice. 1 food per dice. At the end of the round, you have to feed these guys. You have to acquire the resources that you need to build certain buildings. They have building requirements. You have to acquire those different resources in order to build those buildings. So you have to roll that on the dice. And I mean, there's times, we played it the other day and Lori just couldn't roll a build. There's a hammer icon on the dice, and if you don't roll that hammer icon, you can't build. Well, if you can't build, you're not going to have any buildings on your board to score points with. So you have to find a way to do that. The expansion offers a building called the Joinery that gives you an automatic build every turn, and that's nice. But man, if you're playing with the base game, you have to roll that build. And the game ends after 3 of those building types have been depleted from their piles. So once 3 of those have been depleted, the game's going to end. You're going to add up your score, and that's how the game is played. And in this game, you just have, on those dice, there's also skulls, because you're going to roll skulls, and once you roll a skull on the die, you can't re-roll that die, and it will give you some benefits on that skull. Generally gives you a build and a wood, I believe. And so you're going to have something you get, but that skull is going to take away one of your resources. And it's a Yahtzee style, so you can roll these dice 3 times. Once you roll a skull, though, you can't re-roll that one. But you can roll them again, and if you roll another skull, there's going to be more damage done to you in a different way. If you roll 3 skulls, it's going to damage your opponent and scorch some of the earth on their player board. So there's some interaction here. Not to mention, there's the gray dice called an extortion die that you start the game with. You're going to start, I believe, with 3 yellow dice and 1 gray die, which is extortion die. And when you roll that, if you have more swords on your gray die than the other player, you can take one of their resources. So there's a small level of interaction, not enough to hurt anybody's game to the point where they're going to lose the game, but just enough to make it fun, if you know what I mean. But hey man, I tell you, I love this game. Oh, you get also, for all your buildings, every building that you put on your board has a point total on it, and if you build a wall completely around your city that you're building, it's going to double the points on all those buildings. So, I mean, there's so much to think about when you're trying to build your city. Are you going to have time to wall in your whole city? Well, if you see another player doing that, you better get it done. If you're playing this 4-player and 1 player has walled in their entire city, chances are they're going to do very well in the game, and no other players have walled in their city. They're going to be hard pressed to beat them. So walling in that city is very important. And then the expansion, like I say, is wonderful also. It's rivers and roads, so you can put rivers and roads on your player board, and if you put a road, every building that a road touches, you get a point, and you can run that road. It comes with a gate that you put in the wall, that you can run that road outside the city, and if you put any buildings outside the city and it touches those buildings, you get a point for those also. So there's just so much going on with that, and it offers the expansion some new buildings that are going to give you different benefits during the game, and it has scenarios you can play. And there's so much fun in this game. Laura and I love playing it, and here's the kicker. It takes 30 minutes. 30 minutes to play this game. I mean, you're just rolling, chucking, rolling, grabbing your buildings, getting them built on your player board, and each player has a pegboard, and on the pegboard it has the actions that you're going to take. So whoever's turn it is will have a black peg, and they're going to call out what you're doing. Okay, everybody, roll your dice, feed your people, build your buildings, extortion. I think there's one more I'm skipping, but that's the way that works. And then the next player, whoever's turn it is, you pass the black peg to them, and they're going to do the same thing on their player board and call out the actions that are taken in the different phases of the game. So much fun. I bought this used at a board game flea market. I was interested in it after watching it being played, and I had that roll and write at home, and I knew I wanted to replace that roll and write with this game, so I did that. I said, hey, we found that game. I think Lori found it. She said, hey, they got Era and the expansion in that box for $50. Hey, that's mine. Fair price. So I grabbed it, and we have so much fun playing it, and there's a lot going on in this game, just enough to make you have a good time, and that's Era Medieval Age by Matt Laycock. All right, let's talk about a game you probably never played, maybe most of you. That's called Cape May. Okay, Cape May came out in 2021. It's a 1-to-4 player game, and the art is by Michael Menzel, and the designer is Eric Masso. Now, I don't know Eric Masso's work at all, but I know Michael Menzel. He designed Legends of Andor, and he did the art in Legends of Andor, which is off the charts, and he's done other art in other board games, so I'm very familiar with him. And the reason why I want to bring up the art in this game is because the publishing and the art in this game, I mean, just, it's something else, because this Cape May is in New Jersey. It's up in New England on the coast, and they created that world so wonderfully with the art and the publishing that you feel like you're in Cape May. We played it at a convention, and after it sat in my mind a while, I told Lori, I really had a good time playing that game. Let's buy that and give it a go for a while. See what we think about keeping it long term. Well, we just absolutely adore it. And I want to tell you something about this game. In the publishing, cover a few high points. Number one, it's got a double-sided board for player count, which is so appreciated in this industry. For board gamers like me, hey, we play 2-player most of the time. If you got a 1 to 4, 1 to 5 player game and they make you play on the same side of the board, hey, you know what, you guys are playing 2-player, well, here's what you do. You just take your pieces and you just play on this little corner of the board over here and just ignore the rest of the board. I can't stand that. I've sold good games that did that to me, and I hate it. I mean, give me a 2-sided player board. Why have the board be so doggone big and black on one side when you are going to scale it for a 2-player by blocking off half of it? I mean, I've literally gotten rid of very good games that did that to me. I'm just not going to play games that because I don't have to. I can find games like this, and I didn't want to dump this whole thing, but I wanted to tell you about the board here in Cape May. And that is what it looks like. What side do I have? That's the 1 to 2 player side of the board right there. That's the one we use. And it's so beautiful. And I hope it comes across on the video how pretty this is. And it's separated into 4 different terrains. You have gravel, grass, dirt, and sand as you get towards the coast. And you're simply going to have a deck of cards. Each player has the exact same deck of cards, values 1 through 7. Those are your movement cards, and you're going to play those to move. Now the 7 and the 1, you have to pay $2 to move to use those 2 cards, the 7 and the 1. You have to pay $1 to use the 2 and the 6. Then the 3, 4, and 5 are free, and you're agonizing over spending that money because money gets tight in this game. So spending to use that 7 and that 1, $2. Man, that's a tough decision. But you're going to use those cards to move around this board, and you're going to build shops and cottages, which are represented on this board by tokens. The shops, I believe, are hexes, and the cottages are square tiles, nice thick tiles, and you're going to put them on the board. And then as you go along, you're going to try to upgrade those, and you're going to upgrade those using a deck of cards, and that's one of your actions you're going to use is to draw cards from that deck, and it will allow you to upgrade those shops and those cottages. The shops upgrade the businesses, and businesses give you money, so you want to build those. But the cottages will upgrade into Victorian homes, and then from Victorian homes you're going to put them in a base that's a white picket fence, and that's called a landmark. And it has a legend on here. It tells you how those Victorian homes and landmarks are going to score. In New England, for those of you who haven't been there or aren't familiar with the coast, there's all kinds of bird life there, of course. And you're going to move around this board, and if you land on a bird, you can pull a bird out of a token bag blindly, and you're going to get points for those bird tokens, and there's a legend right here tells you how you're going to score that. Then it has the round steps on the board right here. I mean, it's helpful. It tells you what to do on the different phases of the round, which phase you're in, and that's really helpful. And then it has a white lighthouse miniature that's going to go around this tracker here, and it's going to tell you when you can take income at the 3 different points in the game you're going to take income. Just a wonderful, wonderful board. And again, it's dual-sided, so for 3 and 4 players on the other side, or 3 to 5. And I really appreciate that. I wanted to show you that board. You have personal goal cards that are going to be in the game, and the deck of cards that you're going to draw, they're called activity cards. And they're going to be cards that are separated top and bottom, and the top does one thing, the bottom does another, and you have to choose how you want to use that card. And it's an action when you use that card. So that's really handy, and that's how this game is driven by those activity cards. And then you can earn upgrade cards also that will give you benefits. You have special icons on the board. I told you about the birds, and there's also a pier icon on the board, and that lets you draw 3 activity cards and keep 1, I believe. So you'll draw 3 and keep 1, and then there's also a lighthouse icon on the board, and if you can get to that lighthouse, because there's only one of them, if you can get to that icon on the board as you're traveling around the board, you can build for $5 anywhere on the board. And it has an event deck. They're headlines from newspaper headlines, and it sits on the board, and you're going to reveal one of those at the beginning of the round. It's going to affect all players. So hey, there's a lot to enjoy in Cape May, and the game is outstanding fun to play. And I guess the way I would describe this game best to make you get a feeling that you're going to get when you play this is this game is pleasant. It's very pleasant to play. It has enough in it that I would call it a medium complexity game. And I think people write this game off, but you have to play this game a few times. I'm talking about 3 or 4 times to really understand all the different things and ways you can affect your strategy. You have a player board in your area, and it's going to tell you your actions you can take and the final scoring so that you know what you're trying to do. And it has a place over here because you only get 3 actions, so you don't want to lose track of those. So you have a marker you're going to put on the 3, and then you move it as you use up your actions, and that's very helpful in this game. And then Lori made a little piece that tells us what the different icons on the board do. So, I mean, I don't know, it caught me off guard. I didn't think it would be a game that would be worth having for very long. I was completely wrong. I adore it. Every time we play it, I have a good time. And that's why I play board games, is to have fun. And Cape May delivers. And it's so much fun. I just wanted to tell you about it. I will say this, in a 2-player game, there's not going to be as many buildings on the board, but there's quite a few. There's enough that it doesn't bother us, but I imagine in a 3- and 4-player game, the gorgeousness really shines through in Cape May. Oh, I just put everything in the lid. Okay, we're just going to shove that over the side. I'll do that later. All right, old people, what are you going to do? All right, the next game I'm going to talk about is New York. New York City is a reworking of Rialto. Now, Rialto is a game Lori and I liked for many, many years, didn't we? We had it for years and loved playing it. And this is from Stefan Feld's City Collection, which we backed the first wave of that, and all the games are wonderful. All 4 of them. I was very satisfied with the games themselves, the gameplay, and the publishing for the components, and all 4 of those games was off the hook, indescribably wonderful. So after years and years of beige and green Euro games started getting better, and this is one of the examples of that. But the publishing is outstanding. On the components themselves, I am going to chastise Queen Games because the boxes they put all their wonderful components in is so thin. I'm telling you, it's as thin as a Kleenex box. And I don't know who made that decision at Queen Games, but shame on you for charging $400 and some for a set of games and then putting them in a box that you flex the box and you're afraid it's going to rip. So that was the only negative I found in the publishing of these games from Queen Games. And it's true in all the City Collection. It's a shame. They showed up to my house with split corners, brand new. I paid $400 and some. So we had to glue the edges and do repair work on them because Queen Games decided to go cheap and rip off the public for their money. And that was a rip-off, putting their game in a box. Hey, enough of that. So yeah, New York City. This game is played in 5 rounds. It's for 1 to 4 players. Most points wins. And this game is played in phases. I don't know if you play Rialto, but you're going to draft your cards that you're going to use during that round. And depending on the player count, there's going to be pairs of cards laying on the table. You're going to take turns drafting a pair at a time until there's just 1 pair left. And then that's the end of the draft sequence. Then you're going to take turns doing bids on 6 different phases of the bidding round. Now, you're going to use just those cards that are in your hand in addition to 2 cards you'll have in reserve in your play area. Now, that's different from Rialto. You didn't have that, and you didn't select pairs of cards. In Rialto, in a 2-player game, you had 3 rows of cards, and you had to choose 1 row. So you would take a row of cards you wanted that had some cards you wanted, and some cards that were stinkers for you. They changed that, and now you select the cards by pairs. Still, a very strategic decision to make. You're going to agonize over what cards to take, I'm going to tell you right now, because there's many plates spinning in this game, and you're going to have to think about what cards you're drafting. But in your play area, you'll have 2 in reserve, and you can take those and exchange it for 1 in your hand anytime, all during the round. So you can continually exchange cards with that reserve as many times as you want to. And that comes in handy. So then the bidding rounds start, and there's 6 different bidding rounds. There's the press track, dollars, elevator, building, prestige, and skyscrapers. Now, in the press track round, you're simply going to try to gain the advantage on the press track. You have a token on the press track, and if you get it up to a certain point, you're going to pass a 3-point marker, and you're going to get 3 points when you do that. And that's the only points to be had on the press track. However, that press track will break ties, and that's a big deal in this game. So if your area control, your skyscrapers on the board it ties with another player, you're going to break the tie if you're ahead on the press track. So that's very important. It can win the game for you if you stay ahead. You won't lose just because you're behind on the press track. I don't give you that impression. If you have other things working and you can score points in other ways, of course, you'll do fine. But it can be important, that press track. The other thing you're going to bid on is money. So one of the bidding rounds, you're going to play money cards and bid how much you want as far as money. For every card that you bid, you're going to get $1. And that's a big deal. Money's tight in this game, and you need money to activate the characters you're going to get in the next phase, which are the elevators. And in the elevator, you're going to have an elevator that's got 5 different levels, and all these characters are going to be laid out on those different levels. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I think there's 4 characters in each line. Depending on how far up you go, those characters are going to get stronger and have better benefits. But the game is only 5 rounds long, so you're going to have 5 opportunities to bid for one of those characters. You start the game out with 2 of them, so it depends on when you want to activate a character and how much you're able to bid for that particular character. It has a glossary for every character tile in the game, and there's a lot of them, and some of them are fantastic. But man, I'm telling you, you start out with 2, and if you end up with 4, that's going to be probably the general rule, because you can't just win bids in the elevator phase because you have other things you need to acquire. So if you acquire 2 characters, you're doing good. Maybe you can get 3. I think I have before, but again, you're going to spend money to do it, so you have to win that bidding round of money. And anytime you win one of these bidding rounds, you get a +1 bonus. If you bid 3 money cards and another player bids 2, you won the bid. You not only get $3, but you get a +1, so you get $4 to their 2, and vice versa. In all these areas, you're going to get a +1 bonus, and that's pretty nice. Then there's going to be a building plans bid phase where you're going to bid for how many buildings you want to take from your supply to put on your player board, because the last bidding round, skyscrapers, you're placing them out on the board, and as you're spending them, you need to replenish that. So you're thinking about that also. After the building plans phase, there's a prestige phase. You're going to bid with prestige cards, and you're going to take those cards, make your bid, and whoever wins that bid moves on the prestige track or the points track. And then also there's prestige tokens on the board. There's going to be 2 of them. The person who wins the bid gets to choose which one they want to take and place in one of those 6 boroughs on the board, and it adds to the point total for that borough. Of course, you're going to want to put that token where you have the majority of buildings. And then you also are able to place a skyscraper for winning that bid. So that's really nice too. And then the last bidding round, of course, is skyscrapers, and whatever you bid in that round, you're going to put out that many skyscrapers. The first player to put buildings in all 6 boroughs in this game takes a Statue of Liberty token, and it's worth 4 points, and that can be huge. Again, because you're going to be neck and neck in this game. Lori and I play this 2-player, and you're fighting for every point. So 4 points is huge, and it's the first player that gets that. So if you happen to be the player that's first in that round, you're going to win that token if you place yours in the last borough. Even though somebody else was going to place theirs and have theirs in all 6, you're the first one. So hey, you get the token, and that's pretty nice. So I guess in summation, there's lots of moving parts in this game, lots of spinning plates, and the trick is to take all those plates, stack them up, and put them in the cupboard nice and neat, and see how many points you scored. And I love this game. It's so much fun to play, and again, just the physical attractiveness of the game when you get done, and as you're playing it with those skyscrapers on the boroughs, it's just so much fun to look at and so much fun to play. And that's New York by Stefan Feld, one of the best board game designers ever. We've played so many of his games, and we love a lot of them, and some of them we don't love, but New York City's one we're keeping. All right, the last game we're going to talk about today is Tapestry. Tapestry came out in 2019, I believe. Yeah, 2019, 1 to 5 players. Lori and I play this 2-player. It has a 2-player variant in it called the Shadow Empire. We've played it one time. Most of the time we just play it without that. We just go ahead and play it head to head. And the Shadow Empire variant offers a little more interaction because there's another player that may take up some of those landmarks that you can acquire, and we just don't bother with it. But yeah, it's a civilization game. It says people will argue with you it's not a civilization game. I'll argue with you that it is. It's a generalization of civilization building, a civ builder. So you're going to go from making fire to space, over a period of time in this game. So yeah, it's a civ builder. And it's made by Stonemaier Games. It's by Jamie Stegmaier, and I don't think Jamie Stegmaier gets enough credit not only for Tapestry, but for Scythe. Two outstanding games. They're in my library. Every time I play both those games, they're incredible. And not to mention Stonemaier Games published Wingspan, which is in my top 10 games of all time. But yeah, Tapestry, let's talk about that. In Tapestry, it's about the 4 tech tracks that are on the board, and you're going to move up those tech tracks and try to do the best you can. You have to focus on certain things in this game. You can't do all 4 of those tech tracks. I don't care what player count you're playing at. You're going to have to focus your attention on a couple of them and then try and do a little bit on the other ones. But it's a little bit of area control on the center of the board. So there's that going on. You have Tapestry cards that you're going to play that give you a boost at the beginning of each round, and there's only 3 rounds in this game. The first round, you're just taking income so that you have something to spend to get the game going. And the last round, you're just taking points. So the middle 3 rounds are where you're doing all the playing. And it ends kind of quickly. It feels like it ends quickly. But you can get a lot done. By the 3rd round, you're going to get a lot done. But this is a game that is going to change every time you play it. And you have to play it quite a bit in order to understand. I've talked to people or read comments on BGG. People played the game once or twice and said, well, that's not for me. I don't know how you can tell that when this game is, and again, it's not complex. That'd be the wrong word. But there's enough going on in here that it takes a while to get to know it. Not to mention, depending on the cards that you're getting, it's going to change your game significantly from one to the next. You're going to score better one time, even though you felt like you used the same kind of strategy. It's going to be a different score every time you play it because you're just not going to get the same cards or the same the players that you're playing against aren't going to do the same thing, and that's going to change your game significantly because as you're moving up those tracks, you're going to try to acquire those landmark buildings to put in your city that you're building, your city board, and so it's going to change how you play your game because you're going to try to get some of those to take up more spaces on that city board because when you fill up a 9 square space on that city board, you get a resource. And in this game, one resource can make or break you. Man, I'm telling you, you are fighting for every resource you can get. And not to mention, you score points on that city board. And then you have your civilization card. They're very creative, and we enjoy playing different ones of those also. So there's so much variability and variety in this game. And then there's a new expansion that we are going to get for this game. Some people complain there was some imbalance in some of the civilizations, and that might be true. I'm sure you'll do better with some than others, but as I always, I tell Lori, well, maybe you get a more powerful or a better civilization card, but during the game, I get better Tapestry cards just through the luck of the draw. So I'm going to either do better or catch you because of that. So many things can change. So if you have one civilization card that's maybe a little stronger, a little weaker than another, things may come out in the wash, towards the end of the game. I don't think it's that big a deal. However, there is an expansion that gives you corrected civilization mats. So you can buy those if you're not happy with your base game the way it's printed, and supposedly they're more balanced. It's called the Revised Civ Pack. So you can acquire that. And then we're also going to get the expansion called Futures and Fantasies, I think, something like that. And just gives you more Tapestry cards and technology cards, because we play this a lot, and we see those cards and are getting to the point where we need to see some different cards. So we're going to order that and get a little more variety in this game. But it's still an outstanding box of game, let me tell you folks. And Jamie Stegmaier did a nice job in this game, and he deserves credit for this design as well as Scythe. And hey, my hat's off to the guy. He knows how to run a board game company. And the thing I like most about Stonemaier Games is you can get up right now and go buy Tapestry, Scythe, and Wingspan, 3 of the most popular games in the hobby, because he keeps them in print. There's none of this FOMO stuff, fear of missing out. These games are in print and they're great games for a number of reasons. The publishing itself is outstanding and the gameplay is solid, the game design, and that's important to me. It has to be a solid game, and those 3 games are in my top 100, Wingspan, Scythe, and Tapestry, and they're going to stay in my top 100. They're outstanding. Hey, my hat's off to Stonemaier Games. That's Tapestry. I hope you love this video as much as I love doing it and showing off some of the games in my library. That's 7 games of city builders where you're actually taking buildings and doing something with them on a map. Again, there's other city building games where you're laying down tiles or whatnot, and those didn't qualify. But those are the ones I wanted to tell you about today. What city building games do you like where you're actually taking buildings and putting on a map? I think Skyrise, a new one, has just come out this year, just delivered off Kickstarter. We backed that initially and then backed off of it because I didn't think it was at its best at 2-player. But there's some other games out there where you're doing that. High Rise, I think, is one. And what's that one we played? Was that High Rise we played at the convention?
Yep.
And there was another one. Oh, High Rise, High Rise, Sky Rise, and then I think San Francisco had little cardboard buildings you put out. I remember that game, and that was a good game by Reiner Knizia. But anyways, yeah, you guys leave me a list of the games that you like to play, where you're putting buildings on a board or a map, and having a good time doing that. You know, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Help us get to 3 million subscribers. We're on our way. And, you know, I enjoy doing these videos for you. I paid for every one of these games. No one sent me anything. I'm like you. I work. Well, I'm almost done. I've got 3 more days of work till I retire. And then a lot more board gaming to do. Yeah, so I have to buy my own games, and I better do it quick because I'm not going to have a paycheck coming in here pretty soon. But, you know, I try to put myself in your shoes. A person that's watching YouTube and wants to know what's a good board game. And I don't want publishers to send me games. I just wouldn't want that because it's going to color and it's going to influence how I talk about the game if they give it to me. I want to earn my right to bitch about it or earn my right to praise it. You know, so I don't do much bitching on this channel because I just don't like negativity. I always talk about games that I can recommend to you with my heart that you'll enjoy them. And that's why I enjoy doing these videos. So I'll see you the next time on The Bones Collector. I love every one of you. And please remember, keep on board gaming. It's the best doggone hobby on the planet because of the games I showed you today. See ya. Bye-bye.